You know the feeling, right? You've just had a great meal, you're kicking back, and then there it is. That awful burning sensation, that pressure in your chest, maybe even a sour taste. It's like your food decided to take a round trip. We might just call it heartburn or acid reflux, but when it stops being a once-in-a-while thing and starts happening all the time, disrupting your life, well, then you're probably dealing with an actual medical condition. So what is actually going on inside your body to cause all this misery? Let's dive into the science of it, because it's actually pretty fascinating. Okay, so it all boils down to this little muscle called the lower esophageal sphincter, or LES for short. The easiest way to think of it is like a one-way security gate between your esophagus and your stomach. Food goes down, gate closes, done. But with GERD, that gate is, well, it's not doing its job. It's weak, or it just relaxes when it's not supposed to, and that lets all that harsh stomach acid splash right back up. And that acid backsplash, that's what causes all the trouble. Heartburn is the most famous symptom, for sure. But you might also get that yucky, sour taste from regurgitation, chest pain that can honestly be pretty scary, and even stuff you wouldn't expect, like a cough that just won't quit or a raspy voice from all that acid irritating your throat. So if all this is sounding a little too familiar, how do doctors actually figure out if it's GERD for sure? It's not just a guessing game. There's a real process to pinpoint the problem. A lot of times, the journey just starts with you talking to your doctor about what's been going on. They might even say, hey, let's try this medication, a PPI, and see if it helps. If it does, that's a huge clue. If not, or if things are a bit more complicated, they might move on to an endoscopy. That's where they use a tiny camera to actually look for damage. And for the really tough cases, there's the big gun, pH monitoring. And this is why that last test is so important. It is the absolute gold standard. It takes the guesswork out of it. Instead of just talking about what you feel, this test measures what's actually happening, tracking the acid in your esophagus for a full 24 hours. It gives you cold, hard data, so there's no doubt left. Okay, so you have the diagnosis. What's next? The really good news is that the road to relief usually starts with some pretty practical, common sense steps that you can take. Seriously, before a doctor even writes a prescription, they're going to talk to you about these things. Why? Because they can make a huge difference. Getting to a healthy weight takes physical pressure off your stomach. Skipping your trigger foods, you know the ones, means your stomach isn't making as much acid. And staying upright after you eat, that's just letting gravity help you out. Same with propping up your bed. It helps keep that acid where it belongs while you sleep. Now, if lifestyle changes don't quite cut it, medication is usually the next step. And here's what's interesting. There's a real difference in power. H2 blockers are good, they definitely help, but proton pump inhibitors, or PPIs, these are the heavy hitters. They literally shut down the tiny pumps in your stomach that churn out acid, which means major relief for a lot of people. But what if you're doing everything right? You're on the best meds, and you're still struggling. Well, thankfully, that's not the end of the road. Medical science has a few more tricks up its sleeve. And this is where we get into the really cool, cutting-edge stuff. These PCABs are the new kids on the block, and they're a big deal. They represent a major upgrade from the traditional PPIs. As you can see, they work faster, and they're even more powerful at shutting down acid. This is a whole new line of defense for people with really stubborn GERD. And it's not just about better pills. There are now procedures that can physically fix the problem without major surgery. Things like TIF and stretta therapy are incredibly clever. They basically go in through your mouth with special tools to tighten up and reinforce that faulty LES gate from the inside. No big incisions required. Now, for the most severe cases, the gold standard fix is a surgery called fundoplication. It sounds really intense, but the idea is actually brilliant. Surgeons go in with tiny instruments and wrap the very top of the stomach around the bottom of the esophagus. They're essentially building you a new, stronger valve to physically stop that acid from refluxing. So we've walked through all the ways to diagnose and treat this thing. But why is it so incredibly important to manage it? Why not just pop a few antacids and power through the discomfort? Because what happens down the line if you don't? Well, it can be pretty serious. This table really lays it all out perfectly. It shows you the whole treatment ladder, right? You start with lifestyle changes for mild stuff, and you only climb up to the next rung, meds, endoscopy, or even surgery if you really need to. The big takeaway here is that there's a right solution for just about every single person dealing with this. So if you just ignore GERD, you're letting stomach acid do damage to your esophagus over and over and over again. And that can lead to some nasty stuff. We're talking chronic inflammation, scarring that can actually narrow your esophagus and make it hard to swallow, and it can even mess with your breathing. But there's one more complication that's the most worrying of all.
And this right here, this is the #1 reason you have to take GERD seriously. All that constant damage from acid can actually cause the cells lining your esophagus to change. They transform into a precancer state called Barrett's esophagus, and that puts you at a much higher risk for a very deadly cancer. That's why treating this isn't just about comfort, it's absolutely essential for your health.
So, when you look at the whole picture, from just changing your diet all the way to advanced surgeries and even new magnetic devices that strengthen that valve, it's clear the treatment for GERD is always moving forward. It really makes you wonder, doesn't it? With this pace of innovation, what kind of amazing new solutions are we going to have 10 years from now?